When the leader of one of the world's biggest AI companies comes out and warns us about an incoming fraud crisis, I think we should probably pay attention. That's what Sam Altman did 2 days ago when he went to Washington, D.C. to the Federal Reserve Bank and gave a talk. It was mostly about the banking industry and how AI represents a bit of a crisis in authentication for banking. Let's talk about it. I want to read a couple bits from this news piece. He says that there is a significant impending financial crisis because of the ability of artificial intelligence tools to impersonate a person's voice to bypass security checks. What we know about most banks is that they use something called a voice print. This voice print authenticates people to move money. You say a challenge phrase, and the challenge phrase is analyzed by a computer, and they either accept that your voice is authentic or they inauthenticate it, and then they deny that voice and that person who's calling access to the account. This has been industry standard practice for a few years. I think that many of the standard methods of authentication for personhood have been challenged by AI. And so Sam was sharing this sort of an alert to the bankers of the United States so that we would be aware of these bad actors who are impersonating people to gain access. The FBI warned about AI voice and video cloning scams last year. Parents reported AI voice technology was used in attempts to trick them out of money by convincing them that their children were in trouble. Okay, that was last year. That was 2024. But this year now, we have potentially an impending fraud crisis. Right now, he says it's a voice call. Soon it's going to be a video or a FaceTime that's indistinguishable from reality. He warned that while his company isn't building such impersonation tools, it's a challenge the world will soon need to confront as AI continues to evolve, he says. So here's if I was to say the what is the issue? A couple years ago was actually when we started talking about this. I posted a video called "Bye Bye Passwords," and it was talking about how authentication tools are moving from a thing you type to multi-layered approaches that include maybe text messages or biometrics or other mechanisms that companies are using to authenticate a person. And I gave the challenge in that video, try to log into Google sometime and see how many steps you have to take just to get logged in. It's not a password only anymore. In fact, many services are moving towards many different layers of authentication. Well, we would all think about banks as being maybe one of the most secure and trusted industries with the highest grade authentication possible, and yet even they are saying that their premier tools are susceptible to AI hacks. Here's where this goes into the future. Now, some of the podcast episodes I had talked about the need for even more advanced verification tools as we approach a quantum future in computing, where even the standard AI hacks are then kind of redoubled into quantum grade AI hacks, and that being another break point in the authentication process. If you have a standard AI that's able to impersonate someone, well, a quantum AI could do much more than that, potentially. So what is the future of this technology? Well, Sam, as you may remember, has invested a lot in this WorldCoin concept, which he calls a proof of personhood. Proof of human, I think, is how he said it a couple days ago, but elsewhere he's called it proof of personhood. So the orb is what he's investing in to create a tool that will offer proof of human in a world where AI makes it harder to distinguish what and who is real online. Okay, so the vision of the current AI leaders is that we would have additional tool sets that maybe in the case of the orb, it scans your iris, looks inside your eye and it says, here's the, Here's a iris fingerprint, if you will, of a person, and most people don't have iris scanners, so it kind of makes it maybe more secure than something else. But I think the reality and the likelihood of a single authentication system arising is high. And I think that these types of ultra, secure systems will likely be built on a quantum framework, because a quantum framework would be unhackable by anything less than quantum. And so I find it likely that the quantum computers and just the system surrounding will be the gatekeepers for authentication in the future. What that means is that they're also centralized. If there's only a few quantum computers in the world, or possibly only one quantum AI, I really think the world probably only has room for one, then it will be the gatekeeper for proof of humanity in the future. If the economy does go digital, and if identification systems do go not only digital but potentially quantum, the relationship between a person and that computer is going to be critical for their survival in the economy of the future, especially if we believe that the trends of AI will continue in the current trajectory, which is that they are becoming more integrated into the workplace, more integrated into survival tools, into commerce, and into just really every field and every avenue. So if that trajectory continues and these AI tools are more and more integrated into life, then the relationship between a person and that authentication is going to be vital for their survival. If you don't believe that, even just think about what your life would be like if you tried to go 24 hours without your cell phone. There's already so many layers that are dependent on the phone that it would make survival really difficult, or normal daily activity really difficult without that. Try to go through a security at the airport security sometime without your digital boarding pass, without the ability to check in online, without some of these things. The state that I live in is currently working on getting your ID on your phone and such. But really, what we see is that relationship, that authentication of humanity and the usefulness of the device is dependent on being able to prove that you are who you say you are. So I find that these types of tool sets are going to be really important to watch in the future, especially for Bible-believing Christians who see potential fulfillments of biblical prophecy unfolding. A pastor that I really respect said, "It's impossible to talk about current trends without feeling slightly like you're a conspiratorial, And he said, that's why I started this video with my tin hat. And I really laughed, and I found some comfort in that, because I think that's the reality. Some of us are looking at these things and we're thinking, wow, if you even read it, it sounds kind of like you've gone off the deep end. But that's the funny thing. It's all happening out very much in kind of plain sight. So just be watchful. I think the things to pay attention to are definitely, the incident rate of fraud having to do with AI, maybe the need to implement additional safeguards, change passwords, have a safe word with family that, if they call you, maybe they say this safe word if they're really in trouble or something. Might be some good first steps, but I think other steps might be to continue to watch for the centralization of authentication systems. If the systems become truly globally centralized, then we would have potentially some real issues. I think, and I think that the outworkings of those will have to be something that we use discernment about. One thing that I feel like right now in 2025 gives me a lot of hope is that I do see Christians exercising good biblical discernment when it comes to these systems. I was just at a conference a couple weeks ago, and they had a whole lecture about AI and a discussion forum about it. And what I came away from that thinking was, wow, actually the collective awareness of everybody is so much better than I thought it would be a couple years ago. I thought we'd be completely blindsided by some of these things, but actually the Lord, has given us the Spirit who's given us discernment, and together we are seeing some of the issues. And so I just pray that spirit of wisdom and the spirit of understanding will continue to guide us into the future as we walk into some of the unknown, but some of the known as well. All right, take care, friends. God bless.